What is society? Why do we live the way we do? For thousands of years, humans have looked at their social world and wondered. But it's only in the last few centuries that we developed systematic ways to actually study it. Welcome to the story of how we learn to study ourselves, the birth of the social sciences. Our story begins not in a modern laboratory, but in the ancient agora of Athens. Picture Aristotle walking through the marketplace, observing how people interact, how they trade, how they govern themselves. He wasn't just philosophizing, he was systematically studying human behavior. In his Politics, he analyzed over 150 different city-state constitutions. He was, in many ways, the first comparative political scientist. But ancient thinkers approached society prescriptively. They asked how society should be organized. Plato's Republic is the ultimate example, a blueprint for an ideal society. What was missing was the descriptive approach, understanding how society actually works, based on evidence and observation. For over a millennium after the classical era, social thought was largely dominated by religious frameworks. Society was seen as part of a divine order. But then, everything began to change. The 17th and 18th centuries brought an intellectual revolution so profound that we still live in its shadow today. Three massive shifts created the conditions for social sciences to emerge. First, the scientific revolution. When Galileo pointed his telescope at the heavens and Newton formulated his laws of motion, they did more than just advance astronomy and physics. They demonstrated that the universe operates according to discoverable, mathematical laws. This raised a tantalizing question. Could human society also be governed by discoverable laws? Second, the political revolutions, particularly the American and French revolutions. These events showed that societies weren't fixed and God-given. They were human creations that could be radically redesigned. But to redesign society, you first needed to understand how it worked. Third, the Industrial Revolution. As people flooded into cities to work in factories, entirely new social problems emerged: urban poverty, class conflict, the breakdown of traditional communities. These pressing issues demanded new ways of thinking. Enter Montesquieu. In 1748, he published The Spirit of the Laws, where he systematically compared different political systems and argued that laws should be adapted to the social and geographical conditions of each people. This was groundbreaking. He was treating society as a system that could be studied scientifically. Then came Rousseau with his concept of the social contract, the idea that society is based on an implicit agreement among its members. This shifted the focus from divine right to human consent. By the early 19th century, all the pieces were in place for the formal birth of social science, and three towering figures would establish its core disciplines. The French philosopher Auguste Comte literally invented the term sociology. He believed that society, like nature, could be studied scientifically through observation and comparison. He proposed that societies progress through three stages: theological, metaphysical, and positive, with the final positive stage representing the triumph of science and reason. Then came Karl Marx, who took the tools of social analysis and turned them into a powerful critique of industrial capitalism. His materialist conception of history argued that economic factors and class conflicts were the primary drivers of social change. Love him or hate him, Marx demonstrated how social theory could be used not just to understand the world, but to change it. Émile Durkheim took Comte's vision and turned it into a rigorous research program. In his groundbreaking study Suicide, 1897, he demonstrated that even the most personal of acts, taking one's own life, could be explained by social factors like integration and regulation. He showed that society was more than just the sum of its individuals. It had its own reality that exerted force on people. Meanwhile, in Germany, Max Weber was developing a different approach. While Durkheim focused on social facts, Weber emphasized Verstehen, understanding the subjective meanings that people attach to their actions. His work on the Protestant ethic and the spirit of capitalism showed how ideas and values could shape economic systems. As the 19th century progressed, the social sciences began to differentiate into the distinct disciplines we know today. Anthropology emerged from the colonial encounter, as Europeans sought to understand the strange customs of the peoples they were colonizing. Early anthropologists like Bronisław Malinowski pioneered participant observation, living for extended periods with the people they studied. Psychology began to separate from philosophy with Wilhelm Wundt, establishing the first experimental psychology laboratory in 1879. The study of the mind was becoming a science. Economics evolved from political economy into a more mathematical discipline, while political science developed systematic ways to compare political systems. The 20th century brought both sophistication and fragmentation to the social sciences. The behaviorist revolution in psychology, led by figures like John B. Watson and B.F. Skinner, argued that only observable behavior should be studied. This emphasis on measurement and quantification spread throughout the social sciences. But there were counter-movements. The Frankfurt School's critical theory insisted that social science should aim not just to understand society, but to emancipate people from domination. Interpretive approaches argued that human beings are meaning-creating creatures who can't be studied like atoms or molecules. In recent decades, feminist and post-colonial critics have asked crucial questions. Whose perspectives are being centered? Whose are being marginalized? These challenges have forced social scientists to confront the political dimensions of their work. So why does this history matter? Because the way we study society shapes how we understand ourselves and the possibilities for change. When we look at the world today, at political polarization, economic inequality, climate change, we're facing problems that demand the tools the social sciences give us. They help us see that the social world isn't just a collection of random events, but a system that can be understood and, where necessary, transformed. The next time you read about a sociological study or hear an economic analysis, remember that you're participating in a conversation that began with Aristotle in the Athenian Agora and continues today in research laboratories and field sites around the world. The social sciences remain one of our most powerful tools for understanding the complex world we've created. Thank you for joining me on this journey through the birth of the social sciences. If you enjoyed this exploration, please share it with someone who might find it interesting. Until next time, keep asking big questions about the social world around you.